Welcome everyone, this is the Jenkins Platform SIG meeting. Today we're on January 28, 2025. And around the virtual table today we have Kevin Martins, Kenneth Talerno, and myself, Bruno Verstein. On the agenda, the usual suspects, the end of support for Java 11, container image updates for the controller and the agents, the work in progress on images, and a small paragraph about RISC-V. Folks, if there are any other subjects you would like to be addressed during this meeting?
Not for me.
That's for a no. Thank you. So let's get started. I know we always talk about that. It's been the case for I don't know how many meetings, but we have to say so, just in case somebody would have missed it. We have ended the support for Java 11 quite a while ago. So we started with the controller repo who has dropped Java 11. The weekly 2.463 dropped support for Java 11 also. We are now at 2.490 something, so it was quite a long time ago. The latest LTS, 2.479.1 dropped support for Java 11. We are now at the 479.3, and the next one will be the 2. Where did I write it down? Yes, 2.492.1, which will happen at the beginning of February. So yes, we are done with Java 11. As for the infra, it's still there. It will still be there for a while. I haven't heard yet about an end date for the presence of the JDK 11 on the infra machines. We'll see. What we know for sure is that the end of life for Eclipse Temurin 11, that's the vendor JDK we are using, it will stop on October 2027. So we have more than 2 years ahead of us. So we're not in a hurry yet. Now, there is an unofficial campaign to update the plugins to JDK 11 and 17. It's been a while since we discovered that lots of plugins still were using JDK 8 because they set their pom.xml or their Jenkins file to use JDK 8. But some of them don't indicate anything. They just haven't been updated in quite a while. So we discovered that hundreds of plugins were still using JDK 8 by choice or by technical debt, I would say. And as we've been working with Valentin Delay and other Jenkins contributors to a tool called the Plugin Modernizer since 2023, and it's beginning to work, I would say, then we decided to launch an unofficial campaign in order to try and update the most outdated plugins so that they can get rid of JDK 11. So it's mostly automatic. So of course, as it is almost fully automated, it doesn't work for each and every plugin, but we had some success nonetheless. I don't have the percentages, but we are progressing. I created a small tool based on Bash and Python that creates Google Sheet that tells us how many PRs were created, how many of them were merged, how many of them are still open, and on and on and on. And yeah, so for some of them, it does work. For some other, not that much, but it's in progress. And this tool is flawed by design because, of course, it only takes into account, for the time being, only Valentin and my GitHub account. So if anyone would use the plugin, the tool, the Plugin Modernizer, we wouldn't know about that. So I know this won't work in the long term. So we're thinking of using OCI or the GitHub releases or the GitHub packages in order to store that kind of information, so that every time anyone uses the tool, then we would have a trace somewhere in order to track what's been because I could run the tool on the plugin and then another person could run it, and we would have the very same PR created with two different users, and that's a big no-no for plugin maintainers. Anyhow, just wanted to tell you that we are starting to do something, and at the end of the week, we'll have the Jenkins Contributor Summit in Brussels, Belgium. And there will be a track about maintenance. So maintenance is not just about plugins, it's also, of course, of Jenkins cores and all the tools. And of course, we talk about how to modernize existing plugins and to help maintainers to get their plugins up to date. Last year or even the year before, we had the plugin health score that helped grade, I would say, the plugin health. And this, in conjunction with the plugin modernizer tool, could be a great help for plugin maintainers. Okay, I spent, I guess, too much time on that. Just wanted to let you know that we are thinking of getting rid of JDK 8 even in the plugins. But that's quite a lot of work. Any questions about that? Comments? No. Okay, thank you. So the next subject would be the container image updates for the Jenkins controller. And frankly, there is nothing really groundbreaking these days. We have just the usual dependency update. So for the LTS, of course, there is no new LTS, so to speak. So we are still at the 2.479.3, and the 2.492.1 had a release candidate. What was it? Last week. And the official release would be on the 5th of February 2025, which is next week. Yes, next week. So for the weekly dependency updates here, I won't change anything for the end user. It's just internal changes. Git LFS and Bookworm Linux, that shouldn't change much for the end users. Same thing for the Jenkins agent. We only had some dependency updates, so Git LFS, Git and Debian Bookworm. And for the Docker agent, same suspect, Git LFS, Debian Bookworm, and update CLI. So everything should be as smooth as it was before those changes. As for the work in progress on images, we still have the optimized Debian Docker files. That's a long-running PR, but there is still a lot of work to do before it can be merged eventually. So we'll see. The next one is fix handling of third parameter in inbound agent, and there is still a lot of work before this gets merged. So it's stale. The last one is yours, Kenneth, and I haven't seen anything blocking the merge of that except the bandwidth of the infra or packaging team. I would say packaging. It would be packaging team, but it's more or less the same people than the infra team. I saw earlier today, I think that you merged the main branch into it, but I haven't seen anyone trying to merge that. I haven't seen any review, but I think that everyone was okay with that.
Yeah, Mark just said it was going to take a while for him to get to it. But yeah, we were in agreement.
Cool. That's pretty cool. I can't wait until this gets merged. And thanks again for taking the time to explain what was inside, the gaps and so on 2 weeks ago. That was much needed in my case. So Thank you for that. And now for RISC-V. Yeah, that's my new hobby. So we have been playing with RISC-V for, I would say, 2 years or so. I think in 2023, February, in FOSDEM in Brussels, we showcased Jenkins controller with 3 agents. One agent was an ARM64, the other one was an ARM32, and the last one was a RISC-V. So yes, 2 years ago, we were already playing with that, but it's way far from production. It's not ready, not at all. Since then, I've been trying to have a controller working on RISC-V because the machines we used to use with RISC-V were pretty lame, I would say. So no way they could run a Jenkins controller. And that's not the case anymore. We can run a Jenkins controller on a RISC-V machine because we got several machines from, how could I say that, some sponsors. We had one machine from the RISC-V developer board program. So we got a Milk-V Pioneer. So it's 64 cores, 128 gigabytes of RAM, and 1 terabyte of disk. Unfortunately, this machine only runs Fedora 38, which is end of life today, but at least we've got something running. And until yesterday, we were running JDK 21, but the build from Tamarins dating from last October, which is fine. And yesterday they released the newest one with after the Oracle patch day. So they released a new version of the JDK. So that's what we have now. And so we have now a controller and an agent, so on two different machines, and all the two of them are running the same version of JDK 21 from Xamarin. So thank you Pine64 for the agent, and thank you the RISC-V Developer Boards program for the Milk 5 Pioneer. So latest Jenkins LTS, latest JDK LTS, but very outdated OS. So one of them is Fedora 38, and for the agent, it's, I don't know, it's something called Pinix, like Pine or Pinix. It's more or less a Debian, but it's stuck in time. You just can't update it. So we will have to wait until something better appears. So there you can see, I hope. Yes, you can see my Jenkins controller running. So it's the latest LTS, as you can see. And where could I go to see what it's made of? Yeah, some nodes maybe. So as you can see, the architecture is Linux RISC-64 for the built-in node and for the agent. And for the time being, I haven't been really bold. I just calculate pi, because who doesn't love pi? Everybody loves pi. So why not build a program that calculates pi and then calculate pi? I know that's not really ambitious, but it works. Yeah, fine. The thing that blocks us, I would say, is that we don't have Docker yet. Of course, Docker for RISC-V does exist, even if it's not supported by Docker itself. You can build it in a way or another. I managed to build it, but it's still not working on my two machines. But there is hope. There is still another machine that runs a mostly unmodified version of Debian, where we could build and run Docker. And once it's done, then we could assess the Jenkins Docker image. We could try to add a new target as RISC-V 64 in the existing Docker agent, or Docker SSH agent Docker images, and then see if it works on a random RISC-V machine. We'll see. So of course, no support for RISC-V yet. It's just a pet project, a side project, exploration, you name it. And yes, I'm having tons of fun with that. But it's not production ready. You got that. Any comments or question of that? Thanks. Any other subjects you would like to discuss about? Fine. So let's wrap it up. The video should be available from 24 to 48 hours. And we should see each other 2 weeks from now after the Contributor Summit and FOSDEM. So maybe we'll have a lot of good news to share with you. So until then, have fun playing with Jenkins, and thanks a lot for coming. Bye-bye.